So welcome to MyJoogTV, where we pair our favorite musicians with makers of wine, beer, spirits, and today we're in Falls Church, Virginia. Why? Because now it is home to two of our favorite things. Rockin', we call it roots and blues, and freshly crafted local beer. The person who's quenching our thirst for the roots and blues is Tom Principato, so thank you, Tom, for joining us. And then we have brewer Bill Madden, who's really been quenching our thirst for beer for about a decade now. First at Capital City Brewing, then Vintage 50, and this summer he just opened up his new restaurant here at the Mad Fox Brewing Company. So Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit about the restaurant here?
We're an English-style gastropub. This has been in the works for a good 5 years or so now with my wife and my business partner, Rick Garvin. It's been my dream since graduating from brewing school all those years ago, back in 1995, to own my own place, and here we are. It's spectacular. I'm still walking in the dream.
Yeah, and it's a great location too, right on Main Street here. Falls Church is just a neat little town, and actually I just found out you grew up here.
This is my stomping ground. This is where I grew up. Yep.
That's awesome. So you said you went to brewing school. Were you a home brewer first, or did you?
I started home brewing in San Francisco back in 1989 when I first lived out there. And my friends always said, hey man, your beer's really good, you should check out this brewing school at UC Davis. I never heard of it. Something my guidance counselor never told me about. And lo and behold, took some coursework at UC Berkeley, got accepted, and it's a one-year program, Master Brewers program at the University of California, Davis.
Yeah, 'cause that's usually a winery school.
Yeah, we call those guys the whiners, because they take a brewing class and then they whine about their score all throughout the semester. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, like brewing, like anything else, is sort of you have a learning curve. So, when you first started out as home brew, did you have, or even afterwards, did you have any of those colossal mistakes? You're like, oh, I can't believe I did that.
Fortunately, my mistakes were still drinkable, so not really.
That's good. I remember I used to home brew a little bit. And one of the first batches, I put a little bit too much sugar in the bottle for the carbonation, and fortunately, it didn't happen to me, but I gave some to my neighbor. And they exploded in his closet, his glass shattered everywhere. That's it.
I did have a couple of mistakes, kind of think of it when I was home brewing. Started off cleaning all my equipment with chlorine. I realized that produced chlorophenols, and all my beers tasted medicinal. It took us about 6 batches to figure that one out.
So how would one go? So after you graduated, then is it rather easy, well, I would say easy, but straightforward to then move into either apprenticeship or into an assistant brewer?
Well, when I got into this in '95, I graduated from UC Davis in 1995, this industry was just kicking. I mean, I had 30 offers to work at different breweries throughout the country, and fortunately I landed with Capital City Brewing Company, and they were on a growth phase where I got to partake in building out and commissioning 4 breweries with them. So it was a really exciting time back then. It worked out great for me. Yeah. Timing was everything, I guess.
Right, exactly. And then now, good timing for us here opening. And I would say, actually, Tom and I talked about it earlier, just the food here is really good. And excellent. And what I understand is almost everything is made from scratch.
As much as we can.
Yeah, so even the cucumbers are pickled.
There's 2 huge pickle barrels in my cooler right now. 1 week's worth, and then the next week's worth, because it takes apparently 2 weeks to make these pickles. We've got a small freezer in the back, but the only thing that's in there is some local made ice cream, and that's about it. Everything else is from scratch.
Very good. So as you can see, this is a nice place to come and eat and enjoy some beers that we have, like the ones we have here. Tom, a lot of people don't realize is that D.C. to this day has a very vibrant music community, particularly roots and blues, and it goes back pretty far. I've been listening to that style of music for probably 20 years. You've been playing longer. How was it when first breaking in? Because there are some big names that were playing here that have moved on to the national level.
Sure,
Roy
yeah.
Buchanan, Jimmy Thackeray.
Well, when I first got out of high school and started playing music professionally in the early 70s, Roy Buchanan was definitely one of the big guns that was achieving international success in the D.C. area. Danny Gatton came pretty much later. Mama Cass Elliott, I think, was from this area.
So how? So you've seen a lot of changes here. Either venues come and go. Are there any that have closed down? Would you say, God, I really wish I could play there?
Oh yeah, wow. Well, the Cellar Door in Georgetown was really one of the all-time great venues here, and I not only performed some great shows there, but saw some amazing shows there, including B.B. King.
Wow.
I mean, here was a place that held 50 people, and they brought in people like B.B. King, Albert King, Paul Butterfield, a lot of great jazz. I think possibly even Miles Davis might have played at the Cellar Door at one time or another.
That's unbelievable.
And there's still Blues Alley, which is from that era. It's really the last of the great Washington D.C. nightclubs. And there was Desperados across the street from Cellar Door.
I do remember that.
Desperados had more local acts, and I used to play there a lot in Thackeray and the Nighthawks, and with a lot of the local people. And there was the Psychedelia in Bethesda. That was a fun little joint. And the Child Herald at DuPont Circle. Fantastic place.
Yeah, never went there. So what are some of the venues that are still around now that you enjoy playing at?
Well, I love the State Theater. Birchmere is great. And I used to go watch movies at the State Theater when I was in high school growing up here. And I love playing at JV's. It's a nice little local neighborhood place.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, if we can talk Bill into having bands here, I'll enjoy playing at the Mad Fox.
We would very much like that. That would be awesome. Get the stage area right there.
Yeah.
So one thing that's really allowed you to differentiate yourself from other musicians is your choice of instruments. And one of the first CDs I ever purchased, we'll get a close-up, is Blazing Telecasters, which was released in 1990, actually by your record label, Powerhouse Records.
Right.
And obviously you play the Telecaster, and you also play the Stratocaster.
Right.
So what is it about those two instruments that are different than any other electric guitar?
Well, they're Fenders. That's the main difference. There's sort of actually for a long time there was basically two styles of guitar: Gibson and Fender. Gibsons were more artisan made, with beautiful finishes on them. They were glued together with luthier techniques, and they were known for having a very rich, dark sound. Fender guitars were almost the opposite. They were bolted together assembly line guitars. They came in pastel colors, and they were really bright and twangy. That's the main difference.
What about the sound? The twangy sound is pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, you might a good way to categorize it might be is that although Fender guitars were perfect for surf music because they were so twangy,
Okay.
but of course not relegated to just that style.
Now, anything about their physical properties that make it different to play?
Well, yeah, most Gibson guitars are really pretty heavy and sort of had squared edges. Fender guitars were light and had rounded edges.
So you brought your two guitars with us, so why don't we grab them?
Yeah,
why don't you just go ahead and show us?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a Fender Telecaster. And this was, the finish has been removed from this, but this probably was a cream color, which is what the standard color for Telecasters for a long time. This was pretty much Leo Fender's original idea that he came up with in the late 40s. And it's really, as you can see, this is sort of like a plank of wood, usually ash or alder. The Telecasters were usually ash, with a neck bolted onto it and some electronics in it. And these are known for being really bright and twangy, and they were used a lot by country musicians. And the main reason why they sound twangy is basically because of this pickup right here, which, as you can see, is a lot larger than the other. This is a Stratocaster. Same basic idea of the slab of wood with a neck bolted on it, although they learned from the Telecaster that to scallop out some of the edges to make it more comfortable to fit against your body. And a guy named Freddie Tavares, who worked with Fender in the very early years, developed this design, which included 3 pickups, which was really never seen in electric guitars up till this point, and something called a tremolo system, a whammy bar, which enables you to bend numerous strings, even a whole chord at once. You can change the pitch.
Good. Well, thank you, because a lot of us that listen to you play, we see the instruments and we have just no clue, how you play them. So obviously Tom's mastered the Fender guitars. I've always thought of you as a master of German-style beers, although with your current list today, it's more of an English-style portfolio. What type of beers do you like to brew, or do you have any particular favorites?
I brew everything, basically, and whatever strikes my interest or whatever I'm doing research on is what I'll try and brew. I'm known for brewing Kolsch and Wee Heavy. Those are two of my bread and butter beers. Kolsch being the lightest, golden ale, that really is our biggest seller. And even though it's a very light golden ale, it's a very subtle beer, and there's a lot of nuances to it that I've studied over the years to make it the best that I possibly can. The Wee Heavy, of course, is the exact opposite. Huge, big malt character, a totally different style. Those are my two big beers, though.
Now, the Germans have the purity law. I don't even know the beer how to pronounce it. Do you follow that as much as possible?
No. We're not brewing in Germany. I don't need to follow that. We're Americans, and we do what we want.
So, how do you say you do research? I mean, to me, a lot of good research would be to go over there and try different styles. Obviously, you probably don't have that luxury.
Not now. No, not since we opened Mad Fox.
So how do you find new styles to say, well, I would be cool to brew?
Well, first, there's a lot of literature out there. Particularly now with the internet, there's a lot more that we can study about beer online. Now, studying it is very abstract. You really need to go out and taste it too, and that's the fun part.
That ever important field research.
Oh, got to do it all the time. Also, doing research. I'm a beer judge. In fact, next week I'll be judging at the Great American Beer Festival, which is one of the biggest beer festivals in the world. And being a judge exposes me to a lot of different beer styles. I actually have to research and know before judging them.
Because you judge each beer depending on that specific style. Which you expect.
And then we're judging it and evaluating it professionally. So we're given the specs on the beer, we're given flavor profiles, and we need to judge those beers accordingly. So typically I'll ask the judge categories that I have no experience in whatsoever to actually be able to tease and pick that style apart. Perfect example, which we don't have a sample right here, but that's English Summer Ale, which we have on tap here. It's a beer style I had no exposure to and judged last year, and by God, that's the first thing I wanted to do once I opened this place, was to brew that style of beer.
So are you nominated to become a beer judge, or you applied for it, or somebody just says, hey, let's...
You apply for it, you present the beer resume, as it were, and you have to be recommended by 3 other judges, which I've been judging now for 3 years for the Great American Beer Festival.
Wow, that's awesome. It's probably time. Is it time consuming? Where if you want to judge 2 years from now, you got to get your application in now. Or?
Once you've submitted your resume and once you've been recommended, then it's invite only. So you're invited to judge each year. And I've been asked to judge for the last 3 years. So.
Well, good for you. So Tom, next month you are actually 2 months from now you're going on a European tour.
Right, early November.
And we've actually, which will probably be when this is released a month from this date. And so I have your tour schedule here, and so I thought what we'd do is, although we don't have all the beer styles, you're going to a lot of really cool countries, and it's really neat stuff.
Definitely some good beer countries.
And definitely, starting off with Belgium, and we actually have Belgian style ale here, which would be this last one that Bill makes. So what is this beer here?
Well, it's called the Devil's Due. A lot of Belgian strong goldens are given names that relate to the devil. Duval being the original, that's the standard by which we all go by. And Duval is Belgian or French, I'm not sure, or Wallonian for devil. So this is the Devil's Due. It's a big beer. When I say big, there's a lot of malt used to make this beer, a lot of sugars to make this beer. Very lightly hopped, but there's a hop bitterness just in the finish, and it's fermented with the Duval yeast strain, actually.
Okay, really? So how do you get your hands on that?
Other people steal it from me. No, there are yeast companies out there that, although they won't say it's the Duval yeast strain, it's pretty well known that that's what it is.
Well, I'll tell you something that I've learned from my travels in Europe, that actually in Belgium, there are 2 very divided and distinct people that have settled Belgium. There are the French-speaking Belgians and the Flemish-speaking Belgians. Belgians, which basically are Dutch descent. And they speak a completely different language. They speak Flemish, which is a Dutch dialect. It's not quite the same as Dutch. And it's so divided that throughout the country, all the signs are in both languages for streets or whatever. Everything's in French and Flemish.
So I wonder if there's a different beer preference.
Well, most of the Belgian brewers are Flemish.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's interesting. I guess closer, even closer to Germany, in that side.
They probably make wine. I don't know.
So just still looking at this schedule, I mean, it's almost like I want to grab your guitars and I'll just carry them on board for you, just to go on this trip, because then you go to Holland, which you don't have any Dutch style.
No, I don't make Heineken here.
Heineken
Well, actually, I'll tell you what, if you have a Heineken on draft in Holland, it's
fantastic.
It is, because it's completely different
it's fantastic.
recipe than what they export.
It's very good.
Which is surprising.
I've been to the brewery there too, done the tour. They actually make Brolsch and Heineken in the same place.
Yeah, I've been to the brewery as well. Fantastic Heineken, right off the tap.
Yeah, there's another good idea, is a European brewery tour. And then you head to Germany, several stops in Germany, and we actually have, I guess, the only German-style beer that you have available now.
Currently, yeah, we just ran through a couple of styles here on tap. And up until a week ago, we had the alt beer and the Hefeweizen, or Lindy's Weiss. This is the Kolsch, which is a beer style that originates from the Cologne area of Germany. Light golden ale, crisp. The yeast strain I bring over direct from Germany just to brew this beer. All the raw materials are German. The Pils malt, the wheat malt, all comes from Germany. And the hops come from Germany as well. In this particular batch, I use Tettnanger. The only thing that's ours is the Falls Church water.
Yeah. And for a light beer, it has a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not your typical light. Somebody says they just want a lighter beer. I mean, I could see heavy, darker beer drinkers like this, just because it's.
This is a tough beer to make because it's a beer with which the brewer stands naked. There's nowhere to hide here. Any flaws, any imperfections, any infections or anything like that of this beer, or the yeast or anything will show up very readily.
And this is definitely the beer when I come off the bike path, and stop here on my way home. This will be the beer that'll.
It's a great thirst quencher.
Yeah. Now, do you actually use Falls Church tap water when you brew this?
Heck yeah.
Because I remember growing up, one of the particular things about the local water, and I don't know how far it reaches, but the local water is fluoridated.
Yeah, we do active carbon filter to remove a lot of the chlorine. Removing the fluoridated water or the
fluoride.
Fluoride, thank you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but if nothing else, I'm not saying that would be bad or good or whatever, but it just might be a characteristic of the water.
And we all have good teeth too.
Yeah, right.
That's true. So drink beer, have good teeth. There you go. So you also then you go to Vienna, and so we didn't have a Vienna lager here, but you do use Vienna malts in your American Pale Ale.
American
So
Pale.
we chose this as one of the beers.
Yeah. What better ingredients to make an American Pale Ale than English Pale Malt and German Vienna Malt? I would say. So the one thing that's American there is the hops that we use in that beer, and they're Centennial hops that come from the Pacific Northwest. So it's much like the American culture. It's a mixture of everything.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are descendants from that area, and is the Pacific Northwest really the only location to get hops?
In the United States, the majority of hops are grown in the Pacific Northwest. There is a movement now. Cornell University is trying to resurrect the hop growing regions of the East in upstate New York. There's a hop grower down here in Virginia that I was trying to get some hops for to do a wet hop beer. Unfortunately, he had some troubles with his crop this year. But some of the other breweries in this area, like Devil's Backbone and Blue Mountain Brewery, have wet hop beers this year from that hop farmer that they're going to be doing this year, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and this is good because it's really nice balance between the malt and the hops. And the hops, it's not over hop, where you just get that complete,
There's good malt backbone to this beer, and there's a good amount of hop character, but it's not harsh.
That's probably what I was looking for. Now, I know a couple years ago there was a hop shortage. Has that been alleviated?
Oh yeah, very much so. In fact, some folks overbought, and they're now trying to dump on the market, which is unfortunate.
And then from Vienna, you actually go to one of my favorite places, Slovenia.
You've been there?
Yeah. So have you ever been there?
Yes, I have.
Oh, yeah,
So I recorded part of my Live and Kicking album was recorded was used from tapes from a radio broadcast from Radio Slovenia, national radio.
That is pretty neat, and you definitely say, have you been to Lake Bled, Ljubljana?
I've been to Ljubljana. That's where we did the broadcast. Yeah.
Lake Bled is, if you have some time off, is a neat place to go visit. A little lake and a monastery.
One of the interesting things that I remember from the first time being in Slovenia is that the first time we went to a restaurant, that's also another one of those countries where things are kind of divided, because they're right in between Hungary and Italy. So it's almost like you get a two-part menu. You can either have goulash or you can have pasta. Yeah.
And as I recall, one of our favorite places was a pizza joint. And they have, I think the brewery was Lasko Pivo. Pivo is their word for beer there.
Right.
So I guess Lasko might be the largest brewers. Now, I don't know if that's like their equivalent of Budweiser or something that the people there may not drink, but Slovenia is a neat place.
I think you'll find, I don't think you're going to find any place in Europe where anybody's ashamed of the beer like the way Americans are ashamed of Budweiser here.
that could be true.
You know?
But how do you find, what's interesting is you've gone on this European tour, and we know blues is very popular in Europe. So obviously it stretches, as you go eastern into Slovenia, and probably even more if you go into Romania.
Sure, I've played in Turkey and Greece too.
And so how do they have access to this market, or to the blues music, even before the internet? I mean, how do they?
Yeah, it was very much of a different and mind-boggling thing before the internet, because I first played in Turkey in 1987. So actually that was something that was arranged by the embassy. There was a woman from the Turkish embassy that was an American that used to come see us play at the wharf in Alexandria. And she got excited about bringing us to Turkey, and the next thing we know, we're going there for a week. But these days, it's just the internet. It's just, things are it's such a small world, really, in that way.
Now, do you have a tour manager in Europe that handles all the booking for you? Yeah,
well, actually, they cover the whole thing. We have one booking agent based outside of Amsterdam, and he has working for him a driver road manager. So we go out on tour with him. He speaks numerous languages, although English is pretty prevalent there. But I mean, once you get somewhere like Slovenia, it's a little different. But in general, English is spoken. And the booking agent in Amsterdam works with agents in other countries, and he puts together the tours.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, this is something we need to probably work with the DC Blues Society and set up a, go travel abroad while going to all your shows here. Because this is just an amazing trip that you have here. And so coming up, during this tour, you're actually releasing your new CD.
Yeah, basically this tour for Europe in November will be to promote the release of our new CD in Europe, which is going to be released on Dixie Frog Records in France in October. It won't be released officially in America until January.
And what I find interesting looking at the back, and what I found interesting throughout your career, is that you've collaborated with numerous artists. You have Sonny Landreth is playing the slide guitar on the very first track. You have Tommy Lepson, who himself has a great band. And here he is playing the organ or keyboards in most of these. So there's definitely this collaboration that you've had with many of the local artists here. With the late Danny Gatton on this, and I know you've recorded with Pete Kennedy,
right?
With Jimmy Thackeray and the Assassins,
right?
So is that something you guys just have this kindred friendship that you're just like, hey, come play with me?
Yes, yeah. The musical community in DC has been pretty tight, and there's been a lot of cross-pollinating, and that's definitely happened over the years. I guess I'd have to say that since I've had my own indie record company for 25 years, that since I'm putting this stuff out myself, that's one of the reasons why a lot of it's documented.
Absolutely. So I look forward to listening to this. And actually, I've learned from doing these broadcasts that there's this collaboration between the industry here in Northern Virginia. And we were talking earlier that our first episode was from the Toraro Winery. We then go to Catoctin Creek Distillery, who's actually distilling Toraro wine into brandy. And then we come here, and you have Catoctin's old barrels that you're brewing, that you're using for your wee heavy to age.
Right.
And so it's sort of neat. I know when you were at Vintage 50, you're sort of out there in the Leesburg area, but it's sort of neat that even though you guys, you're sort of not in the same industry, but you sort of are, but you still collaborate.
Sure. We all know each other. We go to wine festivals, and they come to beer festivals, and we all enjoy the fruits of our labor. You know, I've known Scott Harris, the owner of Catoctin Creek, before he even opened Catoctin Creek Distillery. So once he got it open, I could use some barrels here to age some different products like our wee heavy. And Scott was gracious enough to provide us with those used barrels, which is really cool because they get a second life.
Right, absolutely, and they're actually hanging out. So if you
That's going green if ever I heard it.
Yeah. Well, we're very conscious about that here.
Sure.
We really are. And for example, in the brewing process, all the spent grains from our brewery goes to a farmer to feed to his cattle. That same farmer also happens to have pigs, so all the kitchen trimmings go to that farmer as well. We're trying to be very conscious and do the right thing.
Yeah, it's great.
So everyone come by here and try some pumpkin ale and some Kolsch or some American Pale Ale or the Devil's Dew. The beers here are great. I can't wait to. I think this is the third time I've been here in 2 weeks, and probably many more. And so thank you both for being a guest here.
Thanks,
and stay tuned for a song from Tom, and we'll see you next time on MyJoogTV.
All right, this is from our new CD. Come on, we're going down to Louisiana. All right, thank you.